and square it is and even. It's not warped or anything. I'm going to show you how to get that. Okay, so first I'm going to start off with some clay. And for those of you who don't like the recycled clay, that's what this is. This is all recycled clay. It looks just like brand new clay. I'll just show you that it can be done. Okay, so I've got my canvas, got my clay, I've got these rulers, rolling pin, and the other thing I've got is a template. So, oops, thanks. What I did here is, since I know I want a 6x6 tile, which is the size requirement, I went ahead and measured it out first on a piece of paper and cut this out, because that way I don't have to guess that it's going to be big enough. I already know it is. And then when I get my slab rolled out, I can just lay it on there and cut it out. Makes it much easier. You can try to measure on the clay with the ruler, but it's real easy for the ruler to move while you're cutting. So I would highly recommend doing one of those templates first before you start. Okay, so I've got that, got this. I'm going to go ahead and flatten this out a little bit. I'm just going to throw it down some to kind of flatten it. Now notice I'm doing it on the canvas so that it doesn't stick to the table, because it will most likely stick and then your perfect tile will be ruined. Okay, so just flatten it a little bit by throwing it down. I'm going to take that and I'm going to roll it out. Anybody want to guess why I've got these?
To make the edges.
Okay, let me show you. I'm going to lay these down on the side. These are going to be guides. Now when I roll this out, I don't want it to get too thin and I don't want it to be too thick. So what I'm going to do is roll it out, and these rulers are going to keep the rolling pin from going down too thin. So as I roll, it can't go any further down than the rulers. And I'm going to try to make sure I get it all the same thickness. See what I mean? How the rolling pin just kind of sits on top of the ruler. Can't go beyond that. You don't want it too thick, so try to make sure that it is hitting the rulers as you're rolling. Just here. Take the time to get it nice and even. You don't want it to be lumpy. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let me see if my template will fit on there. Perfect. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is just kind of smush that down so it doesn't go anywhere. If you feel like it's going to, you can give it a little squirt of water and then put it on top. And I'm going to use a needle tool or some other kind of cutting utensil to cut it out. If you need to, you can use one of your rulers kind of as a hard edge so it doesn't slip around. Let me set this aside. Okay, now that I've got my tile cut out, I want to ask you a question. What happens to clay when it dries? Anybody remember? It shrinks, right. Okay, well, shrinking causes something else to happen. Anybody want to guess? Cracking. Well, it can cause cracks, but it also can cause what's called warping. Has anybody in here ever painted like on watercolor paper before, or painted watercolor on paper? You'll notice when the paper gets wet, you know, when you're painting, then it starts to dry. It kind of tends to curl up on the edges. That's warping. Clay will do the same thing. So we don't want our tiles to be like warped on the edges. We want them to be nice and flat so that if we want to attach it to like a wall or a floor or whatever, we'll be able to. Okay, so in order to prevent the warping, first of all, you have to very carefully pick it up. You're going to use two boards. See, here's the one I made yesterday. It's not warped, it's nice and flat. In order to get that, what I did was I just put it between two boards. Okay. Even if you try to pick it up, like by the edge, it's going to stretch out because the clay is real plastic. So I'm going to put it between these two boards and let it sit overnight, and that way it can get leather hard, but as you can see, it's still wet enough to be able to score and slip things to it or to carve on it. We don't want it to get bone dry. We want it to be leather hard, but still, you know, able to be manipulated. Now, if you guys are going to be doing this today, if you have time and you don't want it to dry out too much over the weekend, I would put it in a bag and just leave the bag open a little bit on the end so that some air can circulate, but not too much. keep it between your boards, and then when you come in Monday, it should be like this, and then you'll be able to work with it. Now at this point, I can, you know, like I said, carve into it. I can score and slip pieces onto it. I can poke holes in it, cut out, you know, whatever. It works real well. Now what we're going to be doing with these is we're going to be putting our Day of the Dead design onto our tile. And what we're going to be doing with this design is we're going to be creating what's called a relief. Does anybody know what relief means when you talk about sculpture? Yes.
Relief is when you have a flat piece of plaster and you put items into it, you press items into it. You can get a low relief, a high relief, or you can get a negative relief.
Okay, good. She's right on track. And that can be other things besides plaster. Basically, what a relief is a design that projects from a flat surface. So this is our flat surface, and we're going to be adding on to that. And then, like she mentioned, negative relief means it goes down into that flat surface and goes beyond it. So if I were to cut into this or carve into that, that's going to be a negative relief. And then I could add, like, if I wanted to, you know, take some flat pieces and cut out something and add it to it, I'd have one level of relief. I might sculpt something else that stands up off of it. It would be high relief. Okay, so the goal with this project is to take your design and put it on here and create it in different levels of relief. So you want some high, some low, maybe some that are negative, but kind of variety so it doesn't all just look flat. We want it to actually be sculpted. And if you look around at these tiles at the top of the room, you'll notice that those all have like sculpted pieces that stand out. Now, one other thing that I want to mention, don't forget to put your name and or your initials and class period on the back. If you would like to be able to hang this without attaching it to the wall, you might want to put holes in it as well. So you can take a needle tool, or I've got a hole punch up there, and while it's leather hard, you can go ahead and put your holes in the corners, then we can attach some wire or string and hang it up too. So if you'd like to do that, you can do that as well. Any questions? All right, that's it. Well, if anybody wants to start today, you can, and if not, we'll start Monday.